I was thinking it was 8, so I was close.
Yeah, we need to do
We'll
8.
start at 7.
No, I think we did 7. I think we need to start at 8. I think you're right.
So does everybody remember talking about, in your own words, explain why the moral law is undeniable?
Talk about that yet.
Yeah.
I think we did, because this is where
I
you
agree.
can tell by people's reactions,
Yeah.
right? When they are wrong, right? So when their values,
Yeah,
when
she
their
was.
rights are denied, they protest. They don't protest when your rights are denied, but their own action shows that they believe it's wrong.
From reaction.
From reaction. No matter what they think about your reaction, they know it's wrong when they're wrong. Okay, so number 8. In your own words, let's pay attention. In your own words, explain why our reactions help us discover the moral law. We talked about this a little bit just now, but yes.
I said because we expect to be treated per the moral law, but not to treat others that way.
Right. They expect others to treat them by the moral law, but they don't hold themselves to that standard. And that's why we can tell what they actually believe more by their reactions than their actions. So, and this is what I wrote down. So when we're treated unjustly, we protest, as we should. Yes. Oh, of course. You can add on. You can do whatever. It's your book. So when we're treated unjustly, we protest, as we should. But that shows that we really believe there is such a thing as justice, as rightness, as moral law. So the moral laws aren't always evident by our actions, but they are by our reactions. And I'm supposed to quote page 175, because that's what I told myself. So turn to page 175. I don't know what I'm quoting. It's probably just what I just said. So the last paragraph before number 3. So the moral law is not always apparent from our actions, as evidenced by the terrible things human beings do to one another, but it is brightly revealed in our reactions. What we do when we personally are, what do we do when we personally are treated unfairly? In other words, the moral law is not always the standard by which we treat others, but it is nearly always the standard by which we expect others to treat us. It does not describe how we actually behave, but rather prescribes how we ought to behave. I think that all of that is important and insightful. So, how, in your own words, explain why there would be no human rights without the moral law. Yes. Right. Yeah. Without the moral law, there's no way for us to have a standard of right and wrong, and one has to believe that exists first. Yes.
Yeah, I just talked about the standard as well.
Okay. What were you saying?
Kind of like going back to our reactions, like you want to be treated rightly. If there's no standard of what's right, then, or like if you do have a standard of what's right, then there has to be a standard of what's wrong. But if you don't believe what's wrong, then there is no moral standard. So then you can't be expected to be treated right.
Yeah, everybody wants to be
Clear
treated
throat, bro.
fairly, right? Everybody wants to
It's a
be
clear your throat, bro.
treated by the moral law. They don't necessarily want to live by the moral law, but they want others to. Yes, Jared.
How do we know that our standard of right and wrong did just evolve?
Yeah. So if it just evolved, first of all, there's no way to figure out evolution physically, and there's really no way to. I mean, you can say that, but there's no way you can prove it either way. But especially with the moral law, like how did chemicals do that?
Right, but we can't prove that like the standard came from God either.
No, we can't. But we can say that we'll get to that, right? But there has to be and we're not calling him God at this point, right? We're saying there's a moral lawgiver because it's impressed on every human heart everywhere. And just ask someone in a closed country how important the moral law is. So for it to be imprinted on all of our hearts, that's something different than having 2 eyes and 2 legs and two arms. It's imprinted in our psyche, in our hearts. And there are very few things that's true of. What's your favorite color? Just everybody say it.
Green.
That's not imprinted on everybody's heart, right? And obviously blue is the best color. Yes.
But if the world is actually like billions of years old, then we would have no idea if the moral law wasn't pressed on everyone that ever lived here.
Well, I guess my answer to that would be we see it on those who are here now. We have no reason to believe that it hasn't always been, because it's true of all of us now. Yes.
Well, if it's true of all of us now, but especially if you look back, take the Vikings, for example, and like all of the different tribes and things that lived in Western Europe, like all of the history that we have of them, it seems as though they didn't have any moral law.
Yes, by their actions. But what about their reactions? What about the people that defeated the Vikings?
Oh, and then they get angry.
Then they get angry.
Gotcha.
Let's take Soviet Union, for example, because that's when I was your age. Those people that were in charge lived great. And as long as they towed the party line, nothing bad happened to them. But the rest of the Russian public, Soviet public, was downtrodden and was trying to get out at any cost. And I talked about that with West Berlin, East Berlin. But when you angered any of those people, when you mistreated any of those people, they got angry. When they were treated the way they treated people, they got angry and they killed the person that did that. And so we can even the Vikings, even the Russians, even the Soviets, even the worst people on earth, the headhunters in Africa. If someone comes after their head, they'll know that's wrong for them to do that to them. So yes.
Can I go get my water?
Yes. We see it universally. We see this moral law. Here's what I put for this answer. A person or country has to believe that such rights exist before they can be enacted, much less codified, much less turned into law. So our founding fathers did believe in that, right? Did believe in nature's law. And so then those have to be enacted. The moral law also implies there is something bigger than our opinions. We know that some things are absolutely wrong, so the moral law must exist. And everyone knows that they're absolutely wrong. Number 10. In your own words, explain how we couldn't know justice or injustice without the moral law. Yes.
if we know there is injustice, then we also know that they're like because they're opposites. If we know that there's injustice, then we know there should be, can be, will be justice.
Yes, the only way we can know there is injustice or detect injustice, evil, is that there's such a thing as good. How do we know a crooked line is crooked?
We know what a straight line looks like.
Because we know what a straight line looks like. And so it's the same idea that we couldn't detect evil unless there was such a thing as good. What were you going to say?
Like anyone, since there's no right and wrong, anyone can like basically do whatever, and we could blame them because there's no standard.
But we do blame because there is a moral law. Yeah, there's a standard.
We render her speechless.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm off on mine. Speechless. Just means something. Sort of.
Loading, like a computer.
Loading. Okay, number 11. In your own words, explain how there would be no way to measure moral differences without the moral law. Yes, John. You can't measure a non-existent stick.
I mean,
Okay. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe an imaginary one. I don't know. Yes.
I said like there has to be a standard that does not change, because otherwise, and like the standard is the moral law, but otherwise you'd have nothing to measure.
You can't measure without something to measure by, right? And so what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was gonna say what Ellie said, like there has to be a standard to compare it to apply morality.
Yeah, so there has to be an unchanging standard to which behavior can be compared. If we don't have that, then anything goes and nobody can call anything wrong or right. But we do. We call things right and wrong, and we know it in our hearts. And how is that? You guys weren't around for Mr. Kozak, but Mr. Kozak.
Didn't he coach basketball? Yeah.
Oh, when you were little.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like we all knew him.
Okay, good.
Like this big.
But you didn't have him as a teacher.
No.
He has a phenomenal ability to draw maps by hand.
Oh, Mr.
And you'd go
about
into
this.
his house, into his class, and look, and it's like, it's perfect. Was it?
No.
No. If we would have put like back in the day, we had these things that like projected things.
Oh, we
like
used
this
those-
overhead projector.
If you were here in middle or in elementary,
Yeah.
we were not so savvy to not have those.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So
So if you projected the actual map onto that map, you'd see the places where he got it wrong. But you'd need a standard to know that. He was close, but he didn't get it exactly right. And so we need a standard in order to know what is right and wrong. What did I actually write down?
Good.
So to claim something is wrong is to, by default, wait a minute, is this 12 or is this 11? 11, that's not order, that doesn't make sense. There has to be an unchanging standard to which behavior can be compared. Like comparing a drawing of a painting and then painting and seeing the painting itself. Or, like I said, with Mr. Kozak, the map. Okay, now we're on 12. In your own words, explain how you couldn't know what is right or wrong without the moral law. Yes.
well, you can't know something is wrong without having an idea of what's right. Like you can't tell me 2 + 2 doesn't equal 5 unless you know what 2 + 2 is.
Right, yeah,
I
to claim that
concur.
something is wrong is to, by default, claim something else is right. Did you have a question?
no.
Okay. So every negation implies an affirmative. If this is wrong, then this is right. this is right, then this is wrong. In your own words, explain how there are no real moral grounds for political or social dissent without moral law, without the moral law. You can complain about anything, right? Yes.
If there's no moral law, there's no position on any moral, no position on
Yeah.
any moral issue. Actually,
So go ahead and carpet bomb them. Go ahead and put them in prison for no reason. There's no such thing as right or wrong. Yes.
And I said, there are no rights, and in theory, you should be able to do what you like. It removes all objective right to be against something.
Yeah. You can have your parties.
You couldn't have an opinion.
John.
Or values.
Mm-hmm.
So without the moral law or standard of righteousness, we wouldn't have any.
There would be no human rights for anyone on earth. Yeah. Yes. Jeremy.
Aren't there moral grounds just like the Constitution and the founding doctrine?
Well, that's like how you interpret them.
Those are an expression of the moral law that resides in our, I mean, what gave them the belief that this is the right way to treat people.
Right, but that you could say that's what these political leaders base their morals on.
Well,
The point is saying they don't have any.
our founding fathers based them off of God.
Yeah.
Are you talking about,
I agree.
so are you saying what do other countries base it off of?
No, the question, maybe I'm reading this wrong, but it sounds like it's saying that if there are no moral grounds, then our political and social leaders can't say what's right and wrong.
No, it's saying that you can't protest something. Like a regular person can't protest. You can't, so
If a
someone
politician said all murderers walk
um,
free.
like someone like,
Stalin.
no, I'm wanting the name of, the guy in South Africa.
Nelson Mandela.
So,
Oh,
Nelson Mandela had no grounds. He can't dissent. The treatment of black people in South Africa when he was dissenting, because there's no such thing as the moral law. So why not mistreat people? There's no grounds to dissent in justice if there isn't a standard of justice. Does that make sense? There's no standard of justice. There's no right to complain about how you're being treated. And yet, when we're mistreated, we all dissent. And the really wonderful people among us dissent for other people that are being mistreated. And I would say the Bible is filled of examples of this and filled with commands that we are to do that very thing. We are to dissent when there is evil. We are to combat that. We are to take care of the widow and the alien and the orphan. And that's the moral law. But even people who don't believe the Bible believe in this. Okay. 13. In your own words, explain how there are no real moral grounds for political. We just did that. We just did that. Okay, so I need to read what I wrote to you then. If there is no moral law, then there is no cause to oppose, outlaw, or protest anything, because nothing is ultimately wrong. But we know that there are things that are wrong. Everyone knows that there are things that are wrong. 14. In your own words, explain why we wouldn't make excuses for doing wrong if the moral laws didn't exist. Yes. Right. There'd be no reason to, yes.
You only need to tolerate evil. You don't tolerate something that's good.
Say that again.
You don't need to tolerate something that's good. You only tolerate evil.
We want good. We all want good. We don't want to do good necessarily, but we
all
want it done to us, yes.
I said something similar in that you don't make excuses for right things, you make excuses for wrong things, and you wouldn't make an excuse unless you subconsciously thought it was wrong.
Yeah, I graded a bunch of stuff last night, and a lot of it's for your class. And I've never had a student come up to me and say, "Skeezer, I'm so sorry. I should have studied more. I got 107%. I'm so sorry that I did that." Nobody does that, right? They say, "Yeah, I biffed on studying and I got a 58, whatever, and I'm sorry. I should have." We don't apologize for good things.
Oh wait, was that a hypothetical?
Oh, that was a hypothetical.
Oh my gosh, I was like, that
Nobody's
is
ever
so
done that.
annoying.
No,
I'm
nobody.
so
I said
mad.
nobody. I thought I said nobody ever has come to me with that, right? Why do we don't have to make an excuse? We don't admit to things that we've done right. We only make an excuse, or we only admit to something that we've done
Or you're
wrong.
not shameful about doing something good.
Yeah.
Right. We don't. Why would we excuse our good behavior? Yeah.
It's like, why would you try and convince someone that you're right if there is no way that you could be wrong?
Right. We don't have to.
Doesn't make sense.
Okay, so the next thing you're doing is reading the rest of the chapter. I'm not sure that we're going to get to the questions, but we'll get to them first thing tomorrow.
180. Are we reading on our own?
You got about 6 minutes. Yeah, read on your own, and then you're going to, I'll write it on the board, but you're going to complete the engaged questions.
It's just like looking at a long
No,
chapter.
this is
You have to read 10
What's that?
pages. Is that the homework?
1, 2, 3, 1 through 5. 1 through 5.
so
That's
still
all homework?
Of the engaged.
So we're doing.
Keezer, don't do me like this, bro.
So read 182 to 192.
Signing homework.
Well, I think you're going to want time to study.
I know.
guess that's fair.
Is that all the engaged questions?
No, it's 1 through 5. Is what you said? Yeah. Engage. Engage 1 through 5, but we still have to read the entire chapter.
Yes. Rest of the chapter.
So read the rest of the chapter, but we're only doing questions 1 through 5. We can do this.
You know what? Don't make it homework. Read now. But I'm giving you the whole class period tomorrow to study that test. We can go over it. The questions.
Yeah, we can.
But you have to do the reading.
So read. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All of us are like, oh no. Then we're like, oh, let's do
Am I
it.
a pushover?
Huh? Maybe a little.
Definitely.